One last run through the Simonim here. I'm curious how much time. But I want to stick it to you all. I want to stick it to you all how important it is and what the big deal. It takes 2 minutes. So I can't say it takes 2 minutes unless it takes 2 minutes. So I'm going to time it now. So I can have brag the right to stick it to you.
2 minutes for you, maybe. You talk fast.
I'll speak slowly. You can do it 2 minutes. Here we go. So the base is a bias, is a house with an ani eating his dinner of bread and salt, pizza of bread and salt, and on his shoulders stands a Kohen, St. Kriyashma. Dav Gimel, which is a camel, are 3 camels in a ruin. The first camel carrying a lion and dove, the second carrying Elio Hanavi, the third carrying David Melech. Dav Dalid, house, excuse me, is the door. Dalid is the door. We're recording this for you tomorrow. We're going to send it out. Look at what time I wasted. Still way short in 2 minutes. Dalid is a door spanning from Gula to the Har Bayis, to the Kotel, upon which stands David Melech, dressed in his chassid. Get up. Hay is a haystack on which Rabbi Yochanan is saying Kriyashma Lamita and suffering as he gets poked by the hay. Vav is a stick being waved by Rabbi Zera as he runs behind the base of Knesset to chase away the Mazikin who are digging up Hashem's tefillin because they heard that's where Hashem can be found. Zion is a gun being pointed by Avshalom at his father David Melech in the Kaddish Kadashim. And Avshalom is calling David all sorts of names in his moment of anger. And Moshe Rabbeinu was looking on and asking why do bad things happen to good people and telling David he could take up arms and fight against Avshalom. Ches is a Chanukiah, which we have 3 supporting a chuppah, a talis that's 4x4, in which one finds his wife saying Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum. And Tes is a teapot that's blue and white, over which they're pouring tea over their Korban Pesach, eating with their silver and gold kalim, and all around them are the Egyptians and the Jews running the Chipazon canopy. That was 1 minute and 50 seconds, including all the stuff, so less than 2 minutes. So yes, you can do. And I spoke slowly. Clearly, I spoke very slowly. So 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay. Dav Yud, we're up to. We're in Yud Amud Aleph. Is it hot in here and getting hotter by the second? Pause the tape. We're getting start the tape again. Probably better.
What's that? Did you get your passport taken care of? Oh, thank God, yeah. Minutes. Okay, good. Where's you go? Here or Yerushalayim? In China. Okay. Yeah. I just free 5 years. Okay, good. Yeah. Nothing to say.
David, after we finish the
you need to run by the bank.
Possible to drop me at the
down
north to
right down the road and walk to the next
right
place.
towards the
They
car.
used to be closed for a while, now it's reopened.
Okay,
Yeah,
which Tasia?
it's where
it's
you
a
know,
northern
East
Tasia.
used to be where the Kirias
Oh no, it's fine.
Over by Big?
Yeah,
Um,
right up the road, yeah. In that older building which they recently
yeah.
Okay,
It's
it's right.
nice. Just gotta get there
Oh,
early.
yeah, no, it's not. I don't have my car.
2 hours
today.
ahead.
You don't.
I don't have my car.
Yes,
Sorry, I
no,
forgot.
it's
My wife has it.
Good, okay.
Totally forgot.
Full service?
Sorry about
We can
that.
get you
All right.
for
Take them up for the top.
there, yeah.
Here we go. You started again? Cool. Okay, so we're holding on Dav Yud, Amud Aleph. So we're in the middle of this sugya. We sort of finished this first piece of the Gadata, but it's brought down. It stands alone what we did yesterday, but you'll see the piece today builds upon and elaborates and adds to what we saw yesterday. So again, yesterday we saw the piece which started on line 21, the second of the very wide lines. Rabbi Yochanan said in Rashim Berachai, when the pasuk says Pia Pasuk Chachma Pasoras Chesed Lashona, that's a pasuk from Mishlei, written by Shlomo Melech about his father David, who lived in 5 olamot. Olamim is the lashon of the Gemara, and at each one of them he said one of these different Baruch Nafshis. His soul should praise Hashem for different aspects of the world, because he lived in these 5 worlds, these by Ruach HaKodesh. We described that yesterday. So, the Gemara continues on today. I don't know if I say it over again, it'll take another hour when we get done again. So after those 5, let me say it so you have it in your head, because we're going to build on it. So here's what it says. I'll read it inside to you and translate, but not really explain more than yesterday. What does it mean when the pasuk says Pia pasuk chacham v'soras chesed al lashona? End quote. What does it mean when the pasuk says in Mishlei, her mouth opens with wisdom and she has a Torah of chesed on her tongue? Keneged mi amar Shlomo b'Krazil? Question mark. Who did Shlomo say this about? Well, Amru ela keneged David aviv. Nothing other than David Melech was referred to in this pasuk. Shedar b'chamisha olamim. He, David Melech, lived psychologically, I say, in 5 worlds, maybe also literally. V'amar Shira, and on each of the 5 he sang praise to Hashem. Dar b'nei imo, the first of the 5, kind of keep track here, was when he was inside his mother's womb. And V'amar Shira, he said, Shneimar Baruch nafshi, my soul should praise as Hashem, v'chol kravai, and my innards, Hashem kadsho. Praise Hashem, as we described yesterday. Then, level 2, Yatzal Avir Olam. He came outside, was experiencing the world outside of himself. He's Nistakal B'Kochavim Mazalot. He saw the stars and the constellations. These are astrologically significant. They facilitate the connection to the world beyond. B'Amar Shira, he said, praise on that Shneimar Baruchu Hashem Ulachav. Hashem is, should be praised by his messengers. Gibore Koach, things with power. Ose Devaro, they followed his word. Lishmo B'Kol Devaro, heeding his word. Baruchu Hashem Kol Tzva'av, all Hashem's legions, this army of emissaries, messengers, bless him. The third one was Yanach Mishtei Imo. He nursed from his mother. Appreciated as a connection of love, not just that there's some world beyond himself, but a world that was created to love and nurture him. And Nistakal B'Dadeha, he looked at her breast, V'Amar Shira, and he said, he sang praise to Hashem, Shneimar, Baruch Nafshi es Hashem, al tishkechi kol gemulav. I shouldn't forget all of his gemul. Gemul, I said, is a double entendre. It means both, like all he bestowed upon me. It also refers to weaning. Gemilah is weaning off of nursing, and I told you yesterday that is the ultimate kindness of Hashem. He supports us, but he facilitates us to be stand on our own 2 feet, so to speak. My call gemulav. The Gemara asks, what was this gemulav? We're focusing on that this connection is connected in place of bina. I told you Kabbalistically, bina, whatever that means, is parts of, gives birth to the neshama. Too much for now, but it said more understandably that the bina comes from your neshama. Either way, the connection we have, understanding comes from your neshama.
Rabbi Hebrew was teaching that the bina is the same as tshuva. That's where tshuva takes place. It's in the sphere of bina.
Oh yeah? Okay.
That's where we go back before the period.
Right, okay, good, very good. So, but taking much more a little more straightforwardly or simplistically, this connection that is being facilitated is happening at a place of understanding, an intellectual thing of one of purity, and Taima Mai, what is so good about it being at the place of understanding in the heart, that the breast or the chest, where the heart is, because the alternative would be like other mammals, that the udders are down by the privates, and there Rabbi Yehuda says, Yistakel b'makom erba. So the child should have to be looking at a place that's like a sexual place. Again, the nakedness place. But again, the issue is that this connection shouldn't be one that's tainted with arias, like pruritus, like sexuality. Masna Amar. No, the issue is yinak mimakom tinofes, that the connection should be one that's adultery with filth. Tinofes is excrement essentially, which is where it comes from. By the animal relieves itself is right at the bottom there, and that's where the other animals nurse from. So not like that, but human beings. Then step 4, Ra'ab b'mapaltan shel Rishayim. He saw the 4th level. He saw the downfall of the wicked people. My explanation of this was that we're talking about like at the end of days, like this, the messianic era, let's call it, where the source of evil comes to an end. The Torah is shafted, as Moran Zucker describes, and And that's why, because that's how we understood this pasuk by Bruria earlier up on the Amud. Shneimar, he said, Yitamu chata'im min ha'aretz. And we explained that it's not chotim, not that sinners should desist from the land, but rather that evil should desist. And as Rashi explained, that's the drive for evil, the Yetzer Hara, the thing that takes them away from Hashem. That will stop being Risham or Einam, and then there'll be no more wicked people, of course, about Yetzer Hara. Baruch Hashem Hashem, Aluka. And then the fifth of the world he lived in was when he anticipated, he saw the day of death. Again, I'll explain that to be not just his private death, but the end of Azel altogether. But at the very end, when the physicality comes to an end. And at that point, you can have a different kind of relationship with Hashem that wasn't available to Moshe Rabbeinu while he's alive. Valmar Shira, and he said songs praise to Hashem. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Baruch Nafshi es Hashem, Hashem Elokai, Hashem my God, Gadal Ma'od, you're really great, you're awesome. Hod v'hag lavashta, you are great and garbed in Hod and Hadar, splendor and glory or something like that. Again, whatever it is, it's this apprehension of Hashem being something extraordinary, but that even more than a Moshe Rabbeinu can understand when he was alive. It's unique when we're all dead and then the world is truly like a yichud with Hashem, and that's the yichidah, that fifth level of neshama. And the Gemara asks, "My mashma, how do you know that the pasuk that we said before was referring to the Yom HaMisa, because it mentioned death there?" So the answer is because Amrav Bar Shila Miseifa Dinyana. Because the end of that story over there, in that parak of Tehillim, it says, Tastir panecha, you Hashem remove your hand, and Yivalun, and everyone, when you pull away Hashem, because that's death comes to an end, you see, so that everyone gets, pandemonium. And Tosif Rucham, you collect in their souls, because now they're dead, and then Yigvun, which is they die, Gvia, it's like they become a corpse, and they go back into the earth. It's fine. That's what we got up to yesterday. Now, like new paragraph, a new thought. Like you'll see this piece of Agadata is being built upon. But understand, it's like a new day, new story, a new page. And this, what I'm reading now, is not a direct comment back what we said before in the Gemara. Just once upon a time it happened, but you'll see they're going to become intertwined. Once upon a time it happened that Rav Shimi Bar Ukva, and some people say it wasn't Shimi, but rather Mar Ukva. That was his name, Mar Ukva, one of the very last of the Rhyme. He was a regular in the Shiurim of Rishim ben Pazi, who was an expert in Agadata. V'hava Mesader Agadata, Rishim ben Pazi was the man who, arranged the Agadata Shiurim, whatever it is, Kabeda Rishuv Levi. In the Beis Midrash of Rishuv Levi was like a Gadol Dort. Okay? So, just to keep track of what's happening here, Rishuv Levi is not really relevant to the story. He is just the venue. But you have two people here. You have, let's call him Mar Ukva, or Shimi, but let's call him Mar Ukva, and he's having a discussion with Shimon ben Pazi. Okay? And the Amar Lei, so he, Mar Ukva, says to Shimon ben Pazi, what does it mean when the pasuk says Baruch Nafshi es Hashem v'chol kravai Hashem kadsho? What's that pasuk getting at? So now, we saw that pasuk a moment ago. That was the first pasuk that David said on when he was inside his mother's womb. And the understanding right now that Shimon ben Pazi is having of the question is like isolated. What's so special about Hashem that the soul should praise Hashem? That Hashem, that one's innards are praised to Hashem. Like why is the innards such a praise to Hashem? That's his understanding of the question. Like we saw before, but now we're going to a different take, a different angle on the same issue. Amar Lei, so here Shimon ben Pazi says to Mar Ukva, Bo'urei, because look, this is not the first time that Gemara says it, but the last time it says it. Bo'urei literally means come and see. Shalom kamidas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, midas basar v'dam. The way Hashem, his midot, the way he works, I don't know, can't translate exactly, his dimensions, his attributes, his attitude. That's good. That's perfect. Thank you. The nature of Hashem is not like the nature of basar v'dam, the nature of flesh. Is that what the Rashba said? The nature of? Yeah, good job. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, the nature of Hakadosh Baruch Hu is not like the nature of basar v'dam. Because midas basar v'dam, the nature of a flesh and blood human being is tsar tsura agabi kotel. If a person wants to express himself artistically, he'll draw a picture on the wall, let's say, but that's like this, the picture is less real than him, it's like two-dimensional,
I'm picturing his
conceptually flat. There's really much to it. There's no way for a person to invest his creation, his drawing he made, with the spirit, with the neshama, with providing, not with innards and not with intestines. Can't infuse a thing with life. Like a person's creations. I can think of many, many, many ways to understand this, but simplicity is just saying what people, simplicity for now, what people create are pretty, one-dimensional, dull things compared to what Kadosh Baruch Hu makes. Because Kadosh Baruch Hu can make these amazingly complex living beings. Kadosh Baruch Hu came. He is Tzar Tzura B'toch Tzura. When Hashem creates, He can create a form within a form. The pash there is, we're talking about the baby inside the mother's womb. Right? So when Hashem creates, He's got not just a three-dimensional mommy, but like another dimension in the mommy, a baby's world, than the mom's world. Umato ba, not only that, but he can infuse that baby with the ruach and the neshama provided in mind, with its own inner world, inner dimension, both physical inner dimension and also its spiritual inner workings. So blessing, yeah. So you can't. So the way Hashem creates is extraordinarily more, for simplicity's sake, more, it's like complex, whatever. Extraordinary. It's not it's alive. But people who Hashem creates
I'm picturing that Baruch is the reason he said come and see is because he probably had a blackboard there and he was drawing.
Oh.
He probably had something visual. That's what I think. Anyway.
No, because we have throughout Shas, we have.
I don't think so. I think it's interesting that you say that because I wonder. I'm not ruling it out, to be honest.
Right.
But I'll tell you what I think is probably the pshat. I think it's idiomatic. We would say too, come look at this. Like, check this out. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
Now, in the Bavli, which we
Yeah.
are learning, you will see that Tashma, like come and hear, is done 100,000 times in the Bavli. In the Yerushalmi, interestingly enough, it uses, for the same sentiment, ostensibly, it says Tachazi, which is like come and see. So
Maybe this Baruch, he said he's the last of the Achronim.
This is the end
So maybe he had some degree of prophecy within him.
No, prophecy.
No, it was
I
before
would. Borei is a common. I think we should just take it.
Okay. All right.
Just as a side point,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Some people are visual, some people are audio, and so like when you say something to them, they'll say, "Yeah, I see what you mean," or like, "Yeah."
Right.
And the best way to speak to your boss, for example, is to do it in the way that, if he's a visual kind of a guy,
Right.
he doesn't want you, giving him stories. And if he wants to hear it, don't stick a page in front of his face. He doesn't want to look at it. It stresses it.
You have to know your customer.
So it's interesting. I once heard a shiur from the Tats, Rabbi Tats. I forgot the context. I just remember this little Kudak said. He suggested that because Chazal say Eno Doma Shmila Riyah, you can't compare hearing to seeing. Like see, as we would say in English, seeing is believing. It's much more real once you see it. Even though like you learn about something and like you accept it, but seeing it once changes everything. I mentioned that Musaf's Kilim, talking about that every day. It was like if you see it once, you understand what it means. You don't see something in the dark.
There's an old expression: only believe half of what you see and none of what you hear.
Oh, there you are. Right. So exactly, at least you can believe half. Exactly. So he wanted to say, probably for Moshe Shapiro, either said I don't remember everything. Pretty much everything he says like Moshe Shapiro. Indicates that the Yerushalmi was much earlier, 150 years earlier, and they were like that much closer to the Masorah, and therefore they had a much more clear vision. Therefore they used the expression "come see." Whereas 150 years later, they're just down to come here. It's like hearsay from the interesting idea. And I'm saying, so you reminded that because you're suggesting every person is visual, is auditory, is tactile learners. I'm just saying, and you have to figure what's appropriate. Could be that as a door, as a generation, back in the Yerushalmi time, everyone was holding by seeing. So to speak, seeing, like they're much more real with it than this adults. He said it, so it's an interesting observation. In any case, back here. I don't think the prophecy is. I think it means see in your mind's eye. Check it out. If we would say English, check it out. Check this out. I guess literally that doesn't mean anything.
Listen up.
Take a look at this. Look here. All those kind of expressions. You don't literally mean like look here at this thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, yeah, I see what you're saying. Exactly. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think it's that kind of gist. But maybe I don't know. Here it's especially like interesting because we're talking about creating artwork and how drawings.
That's why.
We're seeing. Yeah.
We have that Mashus where they're able to see the words.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, interesting. So I don't know. There's definitely room here for that. But anyways, I don't have anything to say about it, so I'm leaving it unsaid. But you see that Hashem's artistic expression is unlike man's artistic expression. It's more multidimensional. Now, to be totally honest, I'm not exactly sure what the exact point is of the difference, or it could be that you can look at different ways. But before I can suggest any of them, look how it's amazing. The Gemara goes on and it says, Hainu de Amra Chana. This phenomenon of Hashem's creation and artistic expression being totally qualitatively different from human creation. Because look what it says here, Ein Kadosh Hashem, there's none holy like Hashem, Ki Ein Biltecha, Ve'ein Sur Kelokeinu. Because there's nothing else besides him. Ve'ein Sur Kelokeinu. There is no Sur, which means a rock, a source of power, like our God. Now we're going to darshan that. My Ein Sur Kelokeinu. What does it mean? There's no rock like our God. So he darshans it as Ein Tzayar. There's no artist like Elokeinu, like our God. Well, yeah, artist exists. Tzayar means an artist here.
How about the word surah that we just read before?
Well, we're playing on that. Well, surah in Mitzayer is a draw. Literally means when it makes surahs.
Right.
But I wonder. I bet modern Hebrew Tzayer probably is an artist, right, or painter or something like that. I would think. But I don't mean it because of the modern translation. I'm translating it. I think conceptually, what we're saying is the way Hashem creates as an artist. And we'll see more about that. So the Maharsha explains something kind of interesting, like I think really interesting actually. He says, like, why are we darshing this? We always have to ask. You can't make a drasha if the thing stands on its own 2 feet. The drasha only has something a little quirky in the way it's expressed. So he says that it can't mean literally tzur, like rock, source of power, because then that would imply that in sur kelokeinu means other things are powerful, but not powerful like Hashem. And that's really sort of heretical. Really, like, there is no power outside of Hashem. That's like our 101 is believing there's some independent power. In other words, everything is FS compared to Hashem. So you can't say no one is as powerful as Hashem. It's like, no one's powerful at all relative to Hashem.
My 5-year-old always say, is this more stronger than Hashem?
Yeah. The kids love that.
Oh, no, exactly. So the Maharsha says it's not like that can't be the pshat. That's the word darshan. We're saying it's not sort of mean rock, it means tzayar, it means artist. Which means, if I understand the Maharsha correctly, then that we are conceding that human beings' creativity is not efes, Klapei Hashem. It's something, which is a remarkable suggestion. Right, you hear that?
That's quite powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's saying that when we create, we're saying when people create, it's just a shadow of what Hashem creates. But that's different than saying
it's nothing.
You can't say people's strength is a shadow of Hashem's strength. No. If we're talking philosophy, if we're talking philosophy here all of a sudden, then no, there is no such thing as strength independent of Hashem. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, when I lift this pen, I know it's like as much Hashem doing the lifting, me doing the lifting. It's not like that I'm expressing independent of Hashem. And therefore it's silly for me to say, I'm only a fraction as strong as Hashem. No, like, your strength is nothing but Hashem. Therefore it's silly. Therefore we darshan, says the Maharsha, and sur must not mean sort of the strength or power, it must mean sayar, artistry, like, creativity. So then the implication is that Hashem's creativity is incomparably greater than human creativity, but that's acknowledging that human creativity is something. It's not just an illusion.
They use the word here capacity.
Capacity for
instead of creativity.
Just capacity.
Capacity, yeah.
Capacity. Is the capacity for?
Capacity to make, to create things, to make things.
Oh, capacity. Capacity.
What about where a person?
I mean, we do make things.
Yes, I'm looking at the Sayar means like our artistic expression. However broad you want to do it. Capacity, usually have the capacity to do something. Our capacity to create. Our creative capacity. So we're going to
The
ask.
person's mechadish, something like the person's mechadish Torah.
Right, that's his.
So it's a creation. So it's compared to Hashem. It's not.
Right, but it's his. But
it
it's
still
his.
is something.
Right, that's very good. That's different. We say, yeah, like seven Filipinos, you did it. Like it's yours. That's your chiddush. Like, is my ha'ara here clear? It's like a mind-boggling ha'ara. When I'll say it again, just repeating myself. If I say my strength, I can't say Hashem. I'm like my strength. There's no one as strong as Hashem. That's a silly sentence because it's not just that Hashem is much stronger than me. Like any act of strength that I express is just Hashem doing it, all of it. It's an illusion. It's not that there's not me and versus Hashem in the boxing ring. No, we can't get the boxing because like whatever the boxing is happening for him also. Yeah.
But it's your Ratzon that's causing the pen to be picked up.
So what? That's not strength. It's Ratzon. Something else. But it's and really what's happening, the truth is, as far as I understand it, there are different takes, but as far as I want to explain it, how I understand it, is that all that I just have is a Ratzon, the pen should be lifted, then Hashem goes and lifts the pen up and makes me think, oh, I did it because I had a Ratzon to do it. And if Hashem, for some reason, really didn't want the pen to get picked up, then I would have a stroke or something. That's what I wouldn't be able to lift it up. Never Ratzon to do it or whatever.
You mentioned Rabbi Akiva, Tats, and he gave a shir that I remember very clearly that he was talking about the unbelievable power of tzaddikim, because when it says lo b'shamayim, tzaddikim can make things happen even though it may not have been exactly what Hashem wanted.
Right.
So,
right.
you know, so we do have some capacity.
Right. This, sorry? Right. So I actually can do something not in a physical realm, but on and it probably doesn't come in great innovation to say like on a spiritual realm that you can do some tshuva or something which is yours. Like I'll go with the Yishmaim chutz mi-Yerushalayim, so your Yerushalayim is yours on Hashem.
Right.
But I'm saying there's something else here going on that's neither the trites, nothing can happen without Hashem, and we're nothing compared to Hashem, and the prosaic,
Right.
which the generic version of our independent power, which is we can do tshuva, we can have bechira, which is amazing in its own right. But it's prosaic as much as like you've heard it before. Like if the Torah would say, look, you can't compare our will to Hashem's will because we have free will, but it's not to Hashem's compared to Hashem's will. You'd say like, yeah, there's no chiddush, that's obvious. But I'm saying, I think the Gemara is saying a different point here, which is we have, besides for our capacity to, choose right from wrong, bechira, we have a creative capacity. Creation can be an artistic and creative capacity, and our creative capacity is nothing compared to Hashem's, but there's a comparison could be made. Understand? You can't compare strength at all to Hashem's strength because there isn't the strength independent of Hashem.
But don't we say that the capacity to create is also like an ironfall that comes from Hashem? When we invent something,
There must be something happening, something to it, something like self-expression, some element of self-expression here, I think.
an element of it, but
An element, but an element is more than nothing. In other words, there's no element of strength. That's what I'm saying, that's right.
The first commandment is puravu. I mean, there's nothing more creative than that. Really. I mean, if you're not drawn to that, what is the new world?
But there I wonder if it could just be, that's not what I mean here. Because there could, doesn't mean that you're wrong on this side. But that kind of creation, like we'll call that procreation. So there's a creation. Like I know the words sound similar and they're obviously interconnected. But really, what are you doing? Like all the creative work is really being done like on autopilot, even by the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like Hashem's doing it.
Yeah.
It's not an expression of yourself or of your mind. Bears and caterpillars also can procreate. They just have a mitzvah to do it. It happens not by an expression of intellect or will.
It's His will. It's His will.
Yeah, Hashem is doing it behind the other. This is something a little different. And we experience, we certainly experience, we create.
The part
We're expressing self-expression. But I'm saying there's something happening.
Well, again, I think we have Hishalut in it, whereas the animals just are autopilot.
I'm not. Since we have Bechira, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that our mitzvah observance is meaningless and that we can't do the right thing and we don't get credit for it, and we should get credit. Of course, when you do a mitzvah, including Pururu, so like you get a mitzvah and you did the Ratzon Hashem, and it's yours. You did it with your Bechira. Bechira exists. You knew that before you came in. If before this shir started today, you'd say what exists besides for Hashem, and whatever that means, nothing. But at least some Bechira is somewhat independent of Hashem. Your Bechira is not Hashem doing it, it's you being both here. That's the one thing that's not Hashem doing. Everything else is B'dei Shemayim. Your body Hashem made and your soul Hashem sent, and it's a peace and blah. But your Bechira is you. You. That's when it's separate from Hashem on some level.
But that Bechira can affect your strength.
Agree, 100% agree. But it's,
so strength does exist. I don't like the word illusion because I think it implies something that's fake. It exists because Hashem willed it to.
Yeah, well, it's illusion that it's not, there's nothing, in other words, let me say it's just a different kind of mashal, like a different mashal to get us.
When you think
If I have a dream, if I have a dream, so I could, to say the sentence, the little, the man in my dream, his strength is nothing compared to me. Like, that sentence actually doesn't make any sense. Because you can't compare the man in my head's strength to my strength. Because he's not a little bit strong compared to me. All he has is what I give him. All his illusion, it's illusion of strength. It's me making him feel strong, or me lifting up a dumbbell. It's not like he's not doing anything. He's not strong at all compared to me. He's not like, 1% of my strength, or 0.01% of that. He's not strong compared to me. He's in my head. He's not even, he can't say, look, I can bench 100 pounds, what can
he has no Bechira, though.
We have the Bechira, but it's a separate issue.
When you play with a toy doll, and you move the doll, so it's not the doll that's got any strength or power.
Right, but let's take to my metaphor for a second. It's true what you're saying, but the created man in my head, the sentence, his strength is nothing compared to mine, is ridiculous. Because it can't be compared to mine. What are you proposing to compare? I can bench 150 pounds, how much can he press? 2 grams? He can't bench any grams. No grams. If he's bench pressing, it's because I'm making him think he's got a weight, and I make him lift his weight, and I'm putting the weight. You understand? So there's no comparison at all. That's what I'm saying. Fs. His strength is not a fraction of mine. It is nothing at all compared to my strength. You can't compare them. Not comparable. So the Maharsha is saying you can't compare Hashem. When you say Ein Sur Kelokenu, there's nothing that's strong like Hashem. What are you proposing to compare it to? It's not incomparable. It's like a silly. But so he says it must be Tzayar. It must be that when Hashem creates, the way his creative capacity totally outshines ours. So I'm speaking out. And that means that the implication that is when we create, like that little boy in your head can't create. He can't think for himself. But we can create, and we can think for ourselves. And that's not Bechira. It's a separate ingredient. Bechira, you knew before you came to class, your Bechira is you have some independence of Hashem, not B'dei Shemayim. I'm saying that your creative capacity is something, it's not nothing. That's remarkable. That's what I'm seeing in the Maharsha here. Okay, that's all the Gemara said so far. And Hashem, when Hashem creates, even though we create pretty pathetic things, like paintings on the wall, look what Hashem did. Hashem can create a life. So it's like a lot more impressive than our creations. Multidimensional. Worlds to worlds, babies inside of mommies, and innards inside of babies, and the shamas inside of innards. So it's much more complex. Okay, fine. Now the Gemara continues on. The pasuk that said, the pasuk that we brought, it says, from line 35, Hanudam Rachana, this is what Chana had said, quote, Ein Kadosh Kashem, Ki Ein Biltacha, Ve'en Sur Kelokenu. There's no power like Hashem. But we said, Ki Ein Biltacha, which is there's nothing aside from you. So the Gemara first asked about Sur Kelokenu in Sayar. My Ki Ein Biltacha, nothing that is aside from you. Amar Yehuda bar Manasya, Al Tikri Ki Ein Biltacha. Don't read it as there's nothing other than you. Elek Ein Lav Losecha. Nothing is gonna outlast you.
Live longer than you.
The
word, it's a funny word, but the word is to wear out. like
What's the word? Sword?
no, this word lev beluye mean like a worn out. Where else? Ain will, in other words, yeah, ki ain biltecha. Like when the Gemara talks in Ksubas about having to replace your wife's worn out clothes, or
Worn out?
something like that, worn out. Yeah, when they talk about like the Kohanim's begadim, which now have to be in the sukkah, have to use like for the wicks for the menorahs. This word beluyim is used, like they're worn out clothes. So like worn out rags. That's here. So it's, the drasha here is don't read it as biltecha besides from you. Ella ain livlosacha, nothing like everything else supposed to gets worn out before you. Something like that. Yeah. Arshka is what, outlive you said? Outlast? It means
So
outlast.
it's to consume you.
Consume? What? I think what translation are you looking at?
No, I'm using my,
Whose translation is it? Sincere or something?
yeah, I think so.
It's,
Okay.
Arsenal says to outlive.
Yeah, consume is not bad, but I didn't realize until the second that you guys looked at the
No.
translations. Okay, you heard what it means. You get what it means. Nothing's to outlive, outlast you. Consume is a transitive verb. I don't like that. It doesn't mean no one's going to eat. Hashem. Anyways, shalom committed. You'll see more about it here. Let's see this is context. Shalom committed Hakadosh Baruch Hu committed basar. Shalom committed Hakadosh Baruch Hu midas basar v'dam. Hashem's nature is like human nature. Midas basar v'dam, the nature of a human being, is ma'aseh yadav mevalin oso. His handiwork, his creations, outlast him. Kadosh Baruch Hu mevalat ma'aseh, but Hashem outlasts his creations. So, yeah, that's the mevalet. But now, I think the implication here, I think the message here is what I understand to be getting at here, is when a person creates, so it's for self-expression. Why is a person, we all have this drive to create? It's because we want to feel some connection to nitzchis, to eternity. We want to feel bigger than ourselves. So we feel if I create, there's more of me to go around. I've left my mark. The world won't forget me so soon. Whatever the story is, like I have a hemshech beyond myself, an extension beyond myself, both in space and in time. Right? I leave a legacy. People want to leave a legacy. They want to write their book and they want to leave their paintings, whatever or their children, or their houses, or their signature they put on the architecture, whatever it is. Because they want to feel they left a mark, and that lives on, even though I'm dead, but I live on in some way. So that's self-expression of self, and therefore, really, when a person creates, it's like really a purely selfish act. I don't mean that in the negative. Like, yes, selfish is like pretty much the biggest pejorative, the nasty thing I can come up with. Selfishness is terrible. I don't mean that here. But it's purely selfish. What do you think?
Self-promoting.
Your desire to leave your legacy is only because of you and your ego. Again, that brings us to good things. Don't get me wrong, but that's not my point. My point is, it's just about you. It's all about you, and there's nothing at all altruistic about your creating.
But that's if you have that kavanah. But like the time left the mission group doesn't mean that at all. You did it out of
Well, let's not confuse it. Of course, if you do any act of kindness that leaves a lasting impression, that will outlive you and it'll have good ramifications. But the drive for self-expression, if you're doing chesed, it's like, nothing with me, I'm just helping people. Like, my legacy became the legend of me, the chesed, bal chesed. But that's different than me, whatever, leaving my mark in any way. If I'm driven to create, to design a new phone, or to draw a painting, or to write a book, or to design my house, or whatever it is, or just whatever, leave good kids in the world. It's like me wanting to take a little bit of myself and suck it out of my body and instill it here, and so that it persists even though I'm no longer here. That does bring us to do good things, but it's just an act of ego. Really, don't. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, matter of factly here. The egoness, the negative or positive, I'm not making a valid judgment. I'm saying matter of fact. What drives you to leave your mark, it's because you want to leave your mark. It's all about you. Right? That's all I'm saying. Right? Again, that's how Hashem made us. But that's how everyone is. I asked a question once to the Rabbi once. I said, is it better that a person should put his name on his book? Like you read a book. I read now my Kedusha Brachos 10a, which I not put my name on it because that that on some level taints it in as much as, like, if my agenda is just to help the world, so I'll leave my book behind without me, but me putting my name on it is like, oh, I left my book to the world. And if he answered me, he said, listen, it's not the normal thing to do. There's nothing wrong with putting your name on your book. That's a normal thing to do. You see that people learn lots. Very few other books are written down anonymously.
I think it adds value to the book because if you know who wrote it, it gives you a certain confidence and reliability that it was written by somebody that I wouldn't read
More
the
prejudice. More prejudice.
I wouldn't want to read your book if I didn't know it was written by you because who's this guy saying whatever he's saying?
Right, okay, fine,
I've got no.
We'll go either way.
Well, those are kind of pragmatic considerations.
You know, along these
But you
lines,
just asked me who translate,
along these lines, I've noticed
Yeah.
that oftentimes, very often, a Rav will write an English Sefer or something like that, will leave the title Rabbi off and just have his name.
Yeah, that's
Right,
different.
that's a little
I think it's along these kind of,
Yeah.
you know.
So okay, so there are all issues with how, but I'm just saying, my only point here, again, I'm not making valid judgment, really. I'm just saying that it's normal. It's a normal drive to want to express yourself. It's normal human capacity. It's not like reprehensible or whatever.
It's not something that anyone can avoid. I mean,
Right.
you come to this world and you're here and you're making a mark, no matter
Right.
what you do,
Right.
positive or negative.
Right, and the desire to leave a mark for the good is a great.
Right.
It impels us to do great things. If we didn't have that, we probably wouldn't do very much, right? So like that's look at the Gemara Darshans. You have to serve Hashem with your Yetzer Tov and your Yetzer Hara. This how you serve Hashem with your Yetzer Hara. So one shot, maybe shot is you take these drives like where you go and you direct it towards something good, like leaving your mark in a good way. I'm not knocking it. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's more than self-expression is self-expression. It's about yourself, and that's where creativity is. And it's always going to be sullied, to the extent that it's sullied with ego. There's no way around it, because what else? What's driving you is because you want to have some expression of self, and it outlives you. You leave a legacy. The point of it, how I understand the Gemara is, that's not Hashem. Here, the way Hashem creates, Hashem is going to outlive his. Let me put the question back on the table before I jumped. Maybe make it clear what I'm trying to get at. The Gemara says, well, look, Hashem is unlike people, because people, their creations outlive them, but Hashem, oh no, he outlives his creations. Like, so what? Like, well, and therefore, so I'm answering that therefore. And therefore, it's very significant, because it's telling you right here that when Hashem creates, and he did create a lot, right? So that's not about self-expression, not about ego, because anyways, he's outliving it. He's going to persist long beyond his creation. Therefore, it's not about him. It can become purely about the recipient. So he's not getting anything out of it. He's not getting immortality or eternity. What's driving him is different. I think that's the point here. That's what the Gemara is saying. Don't think that even understanding it. Now the two issues together. The first issue was we said, wow, Hashem's creative capacity is totally different from our creative capacity because Hashem can create multi-dimensional things that we can't create. I pointed out at least we can create something. But now I'm telling you the nature of our creative impetus, of our drive for self-expression, is all about ego. And Hashem is all about altruism. And that's necessarily true. Like it or not, that's.
Can I broaden this discussion
Yeah.
a little bit? When we broaden it from the individual to the Jewish nation, for example, we have a purpose here. I mean, it's not like it's an ego purpose, but we have a purpose to be a kingdom of priests and a whole nation, and to be a light unto the nations. So I don't know. That's something that the nation itself is expressing. Not for ego reasons. I don't know.
It's their mission.
Just,
It's the mission.
Okay, it's the mission.
yeah, it's a mission.
Well, okay, let's not. Your point is well taken. So let me just clarify it. Your point will let me take clarifying here. Everything you do is leave a mark, but that's not self-expression. That's not creativity. That's just doing your mission. In the history books that we mentioned, you're the guy who did it. That's different than what motivates a person to create something. That's not, we use it as not an example of creating. I mean, it's passively creating the world that Hashem wants. But that's not the point. The point is, that's not my point here. My point is, people create businesses, and they create families, and they create artifacts, and they create works of art. And that driving to their drive to create any and all those things Like, what's a driving person to make a business? You know, to make a piece of technology, to write a new patent, to come up with a mathematical formula. It's like because he wants he wants it to be his. He wants to make his contribution.
He's doing it for the good of society.
Because it's not true. It's not true.
I don't think that's what impels a person really. It's very difficult. It's like not.
Albert Watson, what it is, went to Africa. They weren't doing it for the good of.
But that's not creating something. People can act with altruism, but that's not what I'm saying. That's not, not a creation. The drive to create something that lasts, that outlasts, that leaves an artifact behind. That thing.
And that's why we have patents and copyrights, because people are...
Right, it's reasonable, it's not unreasonable but I'm saying that's what's, maybe you've heard many times this, like, I think I told a story in this venue not long ago, but Alfred Nobel and his,
remember
this other year. I thought this was a very famous story until the other year, I guess it was. You hadn't heard it, so I'll tell it to you now. This is a true story. Alfred Nobel of the Nobel Prize. So what was his contributions to humanity? His main contribution was he developed TNT, explosives. Dynamite. And then what happened is that somehow, and the fascinating turn of fate, the press thought he had died, whether he hadn't died. I think it was his brother who died, who knows. So they printed his obituary, and he was still alive. And the obituary said, Alfred Nobel died, the man developed TNT, and essentially responsible for all the chaos and what has happened in the past half century. And he was so troubled that this was his contribution to humanity that he went with the Nobel Prize. Right? But that's a true story. That's what the Nobel Prize comes from. He donated his money from his TNT fortune to fund the Nobel Prize, to fund people. True story. But I'm sure maybe you've heard this. I think you have. People often frame if you want to, get your priorities right in life, focus. You say, well, what do you want to be left on your tombstone? So what do you want your obituary to say? The point is, what mark do you want to leave? It's a good thing. It's a good thing to be driven by that. But all I'm saying is, leaving your mark is because it outlasts you. Because this time, 100 years from now, we're all going to be dead, and all that's left is the mark you left. You're gone. We're gone. So. Therefore, we think, I better do something. I'm saying, that's because your ego wants to do something, which is fine. That's how human beings are. But when Hashem didn't wake up and say, oh gosh, if I don't create a world, then what's going to be? I better make a world. Because that's dumb, because the world will be gone, it'll still be around. So what's that, he won't have any... I think that's Pshat the Gemara. The Gemara is saying, you can't compare Hashem's... Even though we create, our creation is coming from ego, Hashem's creation is coming from altruism, because at the end of the day, our creation is some sort of expression that will outlive us, whereas Hashem outlives his creation. So you can't, even though you have some creative capacity, don't think you're special about stuff, because Hashem's, I didn't say, me and Hashem creates and I create, which I think people do think about. Hashem's kind of creation is motivated for a different reason than our motivation to create. That's that? Yeah, that's that. I'm going to tell you something, I have to just make a guess, maybe you're wondering about, maybe you weren't, maybe I'll touch something. So, there's a Gemara we saw way back when David Melech said that I'm Arnon Chassid because all of the king sit in Gudos, and I sit being Mater Ish Lamayla, being looking at Daf Shvir and Shlia, which is on Daf. David, that's right. Chassid, David the Chassid. So then the Gemara went on there, and I said, this is the Pshat, I'm sure this is the Pshat. The Gemara says, not only that, but after I rule, I go and ask him if he boshes. I say, my Rabbi, did I make the right call? So I told you there, I'm sure the Pshat is, because lots of people say, oh, look at me, I'm so humble, I could be a king, but I could be like, having my cocktail parties as king, and instead, I'm sitting here dealing with dirty underwear. But that becomes that's what they like. They like being the Posek Hador. That becomes their covenant. That's a bigger covenant. What would you rather be, king of Israel or the Posek Hador? So I'd rather be Posek. That's more interesting to me. So the point of the Gemara over there, I'm convinced, is it wasn't about ego, says David Melech. It wasn't that, so people would say, David Melech is so amazing. No, that's not the Pshat. Therefore, I sort of relinquish my rights to be like the person making the decision by letting him just, overrule me, which makes him have no ego. If you follow what I'm saying, then it's truly altruistic. So it can happen. So here too, it could happen also. Like what just happened, I don't know if you were in the news, something really interesting has happened. There's this guy, Elon Musk. He's like an extraordinary person. and he's developed a number of really amazing different technologies. He's a very rich guy today. He developed PayPal, which you may know from the payments system online. He developed these Tesla cars. These are electric cars that are mainstream. He developed some solar technologies. Anyways, and he also now recently just announced that he's developed a battery that will run your house, which has major applications, very useful. Because I'm sure you are well aware, next month, or maybe it's 2 months, in July, in August, your energy bill spikes, and if you didn't know, right, during the working hour, because of peak demand, and it's expensive. But if you're running off a battery, so you wouldn't have that problem, because you can essentially store energy from cheap times and use it at expensive times, and vice versa. And certainly, there's a big problem with solar, is that you can't really store solar efficiently. So it's fed back into the grid. Be very, like this building in the Middle East here in Jerusalem, in Beit Shemesh, with a huge roof, our base field's biggest expense is its electricity. And if we just have solar panels up and down the whole thing, we could be self-sufficient. It wouldn't cost anything.
You could sell it back to the electric company.
Yeah, but they cost, so that it's also effective. So we could, but that is the same as if we just use it ourselves. If we had a battery that charged by the sun every day and use it in the nighttime and we get it in the day, it'd be amazing. Anyways, so he announced that he had the battery, which is amazing. That battery alone could probably make him, whatever, $1 zillion, whatever the number is, $10 billion. But so he said, and this is also from other things he did too, he made it what's called open source. That means he's not copyrighted it, and he's not reserved of his IP. He says, like other things he's doing, that his interests, I mean, it's easy to say once you're worth $20 billion or whatever, but anyways, but I'm not knocking him, I'm just saying. But his interest wasn't to like find another way to another $10 billion, $1 billion. He was trying to help the world's energy problem. It's a big problem, and his contribution, he wants to give this to humanity, so therefore he doesn't reserve the right. He open plans. If you can make these batteries, because hey, hopefully they can be improved better for society. But I still think, I don't mean to knock him. Well, I don't know nothing about the guy really, but
something self-serving.
It's a new. It could. I'm not knocking him. Maybe he's totally
righteous.
But that's because of the hate. I don't know nothing, and I have a grudge with him. But even that could still be driven from the ego side of like, I want to be the guy who lets. In fact, we're over time, but I'll tell you one more thing before we're up for today. So this is very interesting. I think it's very interesting. So my firm, my business, my investment banking firm. So a year ago, we did a deal for a company which claims it might have a cure for cancer. Fine, that's very exciting, obviously. Then in the last year, so this guy named Patrick Soon, who's like the richest doctor in the world, got very excited about it, and he's basically buying out the company, buying out our investors and so on. So there was a big discussion internally amongst we in the firm, should we sell out to this guy or not? Because it'll probably, he's becoming the CEO and the chairman, and under him it will become maybe worth $5 billion, and will be worth. So I told my partners that I think we should sell. This is my argument. I said we should sell or sell a lot. Because even if he is the greatest thing ever, and even if he's going to put it all into it, even if everything is true, but his motivation for taking over this company and giving his all may not be economic.
Yeah.
Everything is economic. I said, listen, the guy's worth $12 billion already. So plus minus another $1 billion or even $20 billion makes no darn difference. What difference? Doesn't make any difference to life. Once after the first 12 billion, it makes no darn difference anymore, right? So I said, listen, I'm sure what's driving him. They all said no, but I said, I think what's driving the guy is he could buy the whole thing for $100 million, let's say, which he is, everything. So, and he becomes the CEO and the chairman and everything. So if there's a 1% chance that he's going to be the man behind curing cancer for $100 million, it's like 1% of his net worth, he would take that bet. For sure he would. That's how he can really leave his mark. He's the guy who cured cancer. You just say you remember Louis Pasteur, and you remember Jonas Salk, you remember Patrick Soon, the guy who cured cancer, right? That's amazing. So I said to my partners, just because he's investing all stuff doesn't mean it's because he thinks it's worth the money. He might think it's worth the gamble because of the company. Again, maybe he's the world's biggest sonic. I have nothing. But I'm just saying, the motivation, people's motivations are not, not altruistic, even if they're doing curing cancer necessarily. He was out of the guy to cure cancer. Anyways, so we'll stop there. Have a great Shabbos. Please come. We're doing it for you. We're reviewing on midnight here at Beis Midrash.
And no shir on Monday.
No shir. Oh yeah, no shir. Yes, no shir on
Monday.
Sunday or Monday. Monday neither, I should think of that. Because
Oh,
it's
not
for-
Monday either.
I think we're going to be all zonked out. I think
Okay.
it's for kids are home.
Okay.
I'll send you email tomorrow. No,
Okay.
no share on Monday.
And please send the details on the,
My car is in
Midnight here.
an industrial area.
Here, in this room?
It's being
Okay.
fixed in the garage
Okay.
and it's
Okay.
ready.
Yeah,
Is it possible to bring me there so I can go pick it up?
I don't know, because my wife needs a car to pick up the kids from school.
What?
Depends, I'm going downstairs now to a shear.
Oh, you're going to a shear,
I'm
so
going to
then
shear.
that, no, I need to go, so
No, I'm going to a shear
Okay.
now.
just say that.
Rabbi.
Okay. Oh, Rabbi Lubling.
Yeah.
It's worth it that I shouldn't miss the shear either. But after that, it's going to be 1 o'clock, and then she's going to need to get the kids.
Then I'm gonna daven mincha downstairs.
Anyway, everyone. Fine. Okay.
Sorry.
No. I just asked because you never know. You may have been going too big.
Right.
And
It's fine.
Shalom, everyone.
Shabbos and Yom Tov.
finished the year. The oldest son is very smart, so there's a lot of things that person learns. So I think the length of the Rosh Hashiva there, and the young lady, but now especially the grandchild. You know, it's a big guy. He wasn't put in the class. There's a new fellow in shul this morning. Just walking about. Nice guy. He talks about has kids. I don't know how he do it. Every time I walk in my son's apartment, I have my daughter-in-law keep up. Plus she runs a gun in the apartment also. She has another 10 kids. You know, neighbors. Kids leave, it becomes easier. It's like a farm of the animals, right?
That's why she has the gun.
Special dog. Tell the Rav that my son just came out with his fourth article. Okay? Fourth article. The first one was building a sukkah on the Harabai. The second one, I read the article on the Harabai. That was on going on the Harabai. Before he had one on building a sukkah. The third was bringing a kohen
I read the one about Harabai.
He came out with one on seats on an airplane.
Yeah, he brings down the classical sources.
Does the Rav have any issue with
Not a question of an issue. I go on the Harabais. I go on the Harabais. Go on the Makainis that no, everyone is Maida. Everyone, including your son, is going to be Maida. That there's places you can walk where no one in the world holds that there's an issue of Tumah. Shaila is, do you want to go there, maybe take an extra step by mistake? Nobody will tell you that the whole place is awesome. It's not possible, there's no shita like that.
So, that was his issue, if you take a wrong step.
Take a wrong step, I understand. So, we're in a mindset where you have to balance things. Where if the whole Jewish world tells the rest of the world that we're not allowed to step foot on the Temple Mount, so then they say, what in the world are you fighting the Muslims for about the Temple Mount? If you don't go there, you can't go there. So the people who say you can't go on the Harabais need to make it's not just a halachic decision, it's a political decision. You cannot survive in the world halachically. You cannot survive in the world politically by saying Jews are not permitted to enter the Harabais until our Messiah comes, and until then we want Jewish sovereignty over. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the people who say you can't go on the Harabais must be willing to concede that the Muslims are going to take control of it. You can't have it both ways. We'd like to have it both ways, but you can't. And that's why L'dati, the Gedolei Yisrael should come out and take the biggest Chumash Shita. You're allowed to go this far. Okay, this is how far you can go. After you go through I forgot where that entrance, what they call that entrance in the Arab Shuk. I forgot what they call that door that you literally enter the Harabais. Let's say this is how far you can go, like less than your heel. Okay, come out with a psak and say it's 3 centimeters. Okay. Now Jewish people can go 3 centimeters in the Harabais. That's why we're not giving up sovereignty, because we can go 3 centimeters. But if you tell the whole world we can't touch the place and go there, so leave us alone. Give it to them. So you can't live in both worlds. And this is where Rabbi Yoshe Soloveitchik's article, his famous article about where halachic decisions begin to impact the social world around you. You have to be careful what you say and what you do.
you see the Paradigm in Lakewood, by the way?
And if you take that wrong step, go too far, what happens then?
According to the Rabbi, basically nothing. According to the Rambam, it's a fierce chorus.
According to the Rambam?
But he did it for Shogi. It's not a chorus either.
What's it for
I took a misstep.
You're not supposed to be there, so you
Why can't you be there? There are places that are absolutely wanted to go.
You don't know, so only the show.
No. If this is the Harabayas, nobody in the whole world, unless there's a place on Venus we didn't hear about, nobody in the whole world will say that this whole area is also to a tummy. Nobody.
Since part of it is also Chayv Chorus.
Who made that Xavier? That's Xavier in the Gemara.
So how are you going to take a chance? Maybe you step in the area.
So let's say the biggest Chumrah says you can only go through here. Okay. So whenever I go there, I'm only going to go through here. Right? There's no, words, the biggest Chumrah says till here. No one says that this is awesome. So I'll go through there. Is there somewhere in the Gemara that someone made up? I know that today we're going to make all kinds of examples, but is there the together for what?
That you don't end up going to the area where you shouldn't go.
Okay, so now we're left with the question: if we're ready to say that, then we ought to get all the Jewish soldiers off there and give it to the Muslims, because the world's not going to let us hold on to a piece of land that we say we can't walk on.
Yes.
Rabbi, you're making a presumption that
I'm making a strong presumption because the Milchemes Goygu Mother, the point is that all the nations will come to fight us over sovereignty over Yerushalayim, which means that there's going to be a machlokes between us and them over sovereignty Yerushalayim. So to me that means that we're supposed to be fighting for sovereignty and they're supposed to be confronting us over sovereignty, but if I concede the sovereignty to them, then there's no fight.
No, Mike, what I was going to say, I'll say it, what I was going to say was that you're presuming that those, let's say Gedolim, who say you can't go anywhere in this area that you're speaking about, that they care if we're not allowed and we give it to them. I think that's a presumption that you're wrong.
Of course there's a presumption.
I don't think they care.
I've said many times that after Rabbi Rebbe passed away, Klal Yisrael was zeicher to a lot of Gedolim. We were not zeicher to another Mani. There could be a machlokes about Rashach, was Rashach the Mani Kadol. We discuss that. But certainly with the passing of Rashach, nobody talks about a Mani Kadol today. The word that comes out of all the Jewish mouths are the Gedolim. He's the Gadol Hador. Nobody says he's the Manik Hador. You know why? Because consciously and subconsciously we don't have a Manik Hador anymore. What's the definition of a Manik Hador? You know what the definition of Manik Hador is? It's Lubavitcher Rebbe sitting at 770 and worrying about a Jew in Tuskapalut who's not through, and worrying about a Belzer Chassid who needs surgery in Eretz Yisrael, and worrying about a Sadma Chassid who just burned him in effigy in Williamsburg and is trying to make sure he gets food in the hospital. Okay? That's a Manik Hador. He's not parochial minded. He worries about the Jews as a nation and what's best for the Jews of a nation. He's a person that Menachem Begin comes to and says, what do I do about Camp David? What do you think? That is a person you can trust to talk about making decisions for Klal Yisrael because he's not a parochial person. And what the Lubavitcher Rebbe Paskin, numerous times and in writing, that in the Siga, any kind of retreat from any part of Eretz Yisrael that was conquered in 67 is an Issa Dairaisa because you're going to end up putting Jews in danger. That's his written psak. The Siga from anywhere is an Issa Dairaisa. We left Gaza because Gaza, quote unquote, using the old terminology, was a friction point. The Israeli soldiers were interacting with the Palestinian population as a friction point. How many Israeli soldiers died a year in Gaza? 10? 12? Never.
Not that.
I don't know. Ich weiß nicht. And since Gaza was turned over, how many Jews have been killed from missiles and rockets, and how many Jews have been displaced, and how many wars have been fought. So this is, if you're a politician, you live through the moment. Right now, I'm going to withdraw from Gaza because it makes sense now. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says, yeah, it can make sense now, but I'm telling you, you're being massacring people. At the end of the day, they're going to people in danger if you do this. Now, just talking to David about another issue. The great thing about being a liberal, I wish I was born a liberal. And there's studies done. I printed it out now. There's a neurological study done. People are basically born with a natia to be liberal or a natia to be conservative. They're trying to prove this. I wish I was born a liberal. You know why? Because liberals don't have to deal with facts. It's gewaltig. Because a regular human being is confronted with facts that are depressing. He's confronted with facts that he has to deal with. A liberal doesn't have to deal with facts. You say, I'm showing you. You withdrew from Lebanon and Hezbollah came in. You withdrew from Gaza, Hamas came in. Yeah, but let's withdraw some more, it'll be okay. Liberals don't have to deal with facts. It's a gewaltige world to be in. It's Mickey Mouse world. It's a world of the imagination. I imagine that if we give back more land, we're going to kiss each other. I can see it in my eyes, okay? So you don't have to deal with facts. So Baruch Hashem is a great place to be a liberal. The matzif is that there are facts in front of us that only when you're dealing with a Manik Hador, he's looking at facts for Klal Yisrael's purposes. Gedolim look at Klal Yisrael for nothing wrong with it. If you're the Rosh Yeshiva of, we used to make a joke in Yeshiva Spur HaKotel, the hole-in-the-wall Yeshiva, right? We used to call it. One day there'll be Yeshiva Spur HaKotel, the hole-in-the-wall Yeshiva. So, you know, if you're the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Spur HaKotel, you're worried about making sure that Spur HaKotel has money to run for the year. You want to make sure you have enough buffering for the year, and you want to make sure that there are soldiers near Spur HaKotel that are going to protect Spur HaKotel. If you get word that the army's withdrawing from Amona, it's not my business. Let the people in Amona deal with it. They got their own rabbis there, they got their own situation. The people there deal with it. We only get razzled when it becomes part of our personal agenda. We talked about this many, many months ago. This is the Golos mentality. We've all become parochial-minded, individual-minded. Baruch Hashem, the Gedolim had the power to say, we must protest the Haredi draft. Haredi draft is a buzzword. Everybody gets hot over it. So we have to protest the Haredi draft. So when the Gedolim said we got to protest the Haredi draft, you couldn't enter Yerushalayim that Sunday. There were like 1 million boys in the street, right? But when Jews were being thrown out of their homes in Gaza, I didn't find 1 million yeshiva boys in the street coming out and saying you can't do this. It wasn't the yeshiva issue.
It wasn't already finally voted on that issue.
It wasn't a yeshiva issue. So let Jews get kicked out of their house. What's that for yeshiva? If you will tell you to protect Jews in Gaza, the Haredi draft is an issue. Okay, I mean, everybody's got to decide for themselves what they can do, what they can't do, and how small their world wants to be. Okay. You want to, I don't know if it's a waste to spend 2 or 3 minutes to tell a story here about the Lubavitcher in front of us, so you can understand what it means to sit in a place and be worried about all the Klal Yisrael. If you'd like to see the story, by the way, it's told by Lubavitcher Meshula. You go to your microwave. There's something on your microwave called YouTube. On YouTube, you can look up Lubavitcher Rebbe and Viktor Frankl. Viktor V-I-C-T-O-R, Frankl without the E, F-R-A-N-K-L. Viktor Frankl was a world-known psychiatrist. He died probably 20 years ago. He was from a frum family. Psychiatrist. He was already a psychiatrist when he went through the concentration camps. He lost his wife in the concentration camps. He wrote a book Man in Search of Meaning. Man in Search of Meaning. Everybody should read that book. Get the book. It's a softcover book, about 140 pages. You'll be a better person for reading it. The first half of the book is his experience in going through the concentration camp. The second half of the book is how going through the concentration camp he developed a therapy called logotherapy, which is today a worldwide therapy. There are logotherapy institutes all over the world. It is the closest thing to Torah therapy that you'll ever see. CBT gets a little close. There's nothing closer than logotherapy. The word logo means meaning. Give your life some meaning. And his theory is that every emotional problem comes down to a person finding his life being purposeless. And however it works, he develops it, and it's become a worldwide use therapy. And he looked at statistics. He kept his own statistics as he was going through the concentration camps. The kind of people who would talk and say, when I get out of here, I'm going to Michigan. They weighed 70 pounds, and every day they were falling like flies. And there were people who talked about, when I get out of here, I am going to. Those are the people that survived and later became productive people. The people who are always talking about, I'm never going to get out of here, I'm going to die, I can't take this anymore, those are the people who never threw themselves against the electrified fences. What's the difference between these two people? There are people who in the worst times, now you can't get worse than being in a concentration camp, so let's call that a life challenge, okay? A little more difficult challenge than some of the things we need to do. But let's call this a life challenge. You're in a concentration camp. You can either meet that challenge by saying, I don't know, I don't see any way out of here. Or you can say, I'm not sure what the way out of here is. I'll figure it out. And once I get out of here, I've got a whole agenda of things I want to do with my life. Anyway, he got out of the camps without his family, never. He went to Vienna. Vienna is the hot spot in those days. You're talking about post-World War II, 40s, early 50s, the hot spot of Freud. Freud over there is like the Pope, right? In Rome, they bow down to the Pope. In Vienna, they have I'm not joking, in Vienna, they had the Freudian Society. There was nothing else except talk therapy, Freudian therapy. Viktor Frankl decided to live in Vienna, and he wrote, and he got a position in the University of Vienna. He wrote and taught that Freud was basically crazy. He was a guy that was freaked out about dreams, had a problem with his sexual Yetzer Hara, and his therapy really doesn't help anybody. And he was mafarsam this. So they kicked him out of the university. And any papers that he was planning to publish, all the publishers refused to publish anything he wrote. And his career was at an end. What I'm telling you now is a story as told by the person who was the Rebbe's Mashur. So this Yid is sitting in Vienna, and he applied for a visa, I think, to go to some South American country. He was leaving Vienna, and he was going to start a new career, new life. Anyway, a knock is on the door, and it's a lady. Lady, I'd like to speak to Viktor Frankl. So, a lady happens to come to see Viktor Frankl because the Lubavitcher Rebbe in New York told this woman, a very wealthy woman who came from Austria and had family in Austria. The Lubavitcher Rebbe knew this woman goes back and forth to Austria. He called her, he had a call into his office. He said, next time you go to Austria, I want you to go to find the address. There's somebody there called Viktor Frankl. I want you to go talk to him. Nobody heard of Viktor Frankl except in Vienna. Nobody knows about him. That's all he's doing is being sued. He's being sued in Vienna. His name has not gotten out. No one knows from him. His book's not been published. The Rebbe says, I want you to go to Vienna and see this guy. And tell him that Rabbi Schneerson says he's not to leave Vienna. Now, this guy, Viktor Frankl, doesn't know Rabbi Schneerson from nobody. Rabbi Schneerson sent him instructions. He is not to leave Vienna. He is to continue to work. Whatever he needs to publish, he's to send to European publishers. Forget about trying to get it published in Vienna. And he has my blessing. He's going to become known throughout the world. So the lady knocks on the door. Viktor Frankl's wife opens the door, and there's a big cross in the house. After the war, he married a Catholic woman. She doesn't know what's going on here. So she speaks to Viktor Frankl and says, Rabbi Schneerson. Yeah, I heard there's Rabbi Schneerson. Yeah, what does he want from me? Rabbi Schneerson says that you're thinking about leaving Vienna. Schneerson thinks, I never spoke to Rabbi Schneerson. How does Rabbi Schneerson know I'm thinking about leaving Vienna? He said, I don't know. He says, you're thinking about leaving Vienna. So they're sitting at her dining room table, and he's got all the papers. He's got his visa, everything's ready to go, the tickets, everything. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave. How does Rabbi Schneerson know I'm leaving Vienna? Rabbi Schneerson said, you're not leaving Vienna. You're staying in Austria, and you're going to continue writing, and you're going to send your books out to publishers in Europe, and you have his blessing, you're going to become world known. For whatever reason, he takes his stuff, he forgets about it, he stays in Vienna. Finally, he finds the first print of A Man in Search of Meaning. That's his first book, 140 pages. And he prints it, and he becomes world renowned, and he starts lecturing all over the world, and they open up all over America, logotherapy, This story is being told by the Mishulach. You have to watch it to hear all the details. Now, what am I talking about? What's the point of the story? The point of the story is nobody ever figured out how this year in 770 Eastern Parkway in 1950s knows that there's some Yid who's married to a Catholic woman in Vienna, has basically come to his wit's end, and is about to move somewhere and giving up on his life's work. How he knew that, nobody knows. And he tells him to stay there because his work is a very important work, and his work is going to help a lot of people. I don't need to interpret that story. I'm not interpreting that story. I'm not into that stuff. Okay, I'm keeping 2 feet on the ground. I don't really care how the Lubavitch ever knew about Viktor Frankl. I don't care. For all I know, there's no Ruach HaKodesh to it. For all I know is there was a student in Austria who studied under Viktor Frankl in the university. He went to America and he spoke to Lubavitch Rebbe. He said there's this great guy with great ideas in Vienna, and they're killing him there because he's anti-Freud, and he's a Yid married to a Catholic. Maybe the Rebbe can do something for him. So the Rebbe did this. No Nevuah, no Ruach HaKodesh. But the man sitting on 770 was worried about this Jew in Vienna who was married to a Catholic woman. So the Ruach HaKodesh it doesn't make a difference to me. The point is there was a Yid that was concerned about a Yid halfway across the world. That's a Manik Hador. That's a Manik Hador. He's not worried about the organizations. It's just one little Yid over there. It's my problem. Now, if you consider, if the Lubavitch Rebbe lived, I don't know if you've seen them, 3 new books about the Lubavitch Rebbe that have come out in the last year. One by Aden Steinsaltz, called My Rebbe. Aden Steinsaltz had a very personal relationship. Then there's a book by Miller, which is much, much deeper. But the Aden Steinsaltz book is just about who the Rebbe was. Now, if the Rebbe was like this for Viktor Frankl, and the Rebbe, let's say, knew, let's keep it at 100,000 Jews, let's say, and it was more than that. Can you imagine keeping on your mind 100,000 people and what they need, and being a shepherd for all those people? Because that's what he was. And he managed to keep a day of learning, and as everybody knows in his young years, a very tough schedule of meeting people the whole day and talking to people, reading letters and answering letters. Okay. And he was right. He said, Klal Yisrael will be endangered by any retreat from anywhere in Eretz Yisrael. Is that right? Okay. I have a Gemara that I learned yesterday with David. Just looking at an Indian for about Shavuos. Come back to the Pachad Yitzchak. Where we were holding in the Pachad Yitzchak was, it says by Matan Torah there was fire, thunder, lightning, oy oy oy, and everybody was scared to death. And as we said, literally scared to death. There was a good reason to be scared to death, because they were dying. After every dibra, the Gemara says, Yotzan Nishmasam, boom, they were dead. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent down, the Gemara says, Tal Shel Tchiyah, that special tal for Tchiyas HaMeisim, and they stood up. And the Rebbeinu Shalom said, boom, they were dead. The Rebbeinu Shalom dropped a little tal Shel Tchiyah. Finally, Klal Yisrael said to Moshe Rabbeinu, can you do us a favor? And the end of Parshas Yisro that we're going to read on Sunday, Daber ata imanu v'nishma, val yidaber imanu alekim penomus. Do us a favor. Let God talk to you, and you talk to us. Because if He continues talking to us, we keep on dying. Okay? And we'd rather not go through the die life cycle. And the Rebbeinu Shalom said, okay, we'll do it this way. So when the Klal Yisrael said to Moshe Rabbeinu, do us a favor, let Hashem talk to you and you talk to us, we're scared. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Klal Yisrael, Al tiro, don't be scared. What's the worst thing that's going to happen here? You're dying. Nothing to be scared about. Al tiro. Why? Because God has come to lift you up. All this dying, living is going to lift you up. We didn't deal with that. And then the pasuk says, "Uva'avor tia yerosei al penechem levilti techato." It's a pasuk, and the Rebbeinu Shalom also has done this scare tactic: thunder, lightning, fire, smoke, so that you should have yira shamayim al penechem, and then you won't do enough favor. So Gemara asks in the Dharm and Avchav, that's what we started several weeks ago, what is yirosei al penechem? The pasuk should just say you should fear God. What's yira al penechem? Fear of God on your face. The Gemara said yira al penechem zu busha. It means to be ashamed. It means to have Jewish shame, rather than Jewish guilt. Rabbi Tversky doesn't like to talk about guilt. He differentiates between guilt and shame. But there are three simanim. The Gemara says Niyavam is for a Jewish person. Goim lechaisanim. Baishanim, Rahmanim. Those are three features of a Jewish person, and the acronym for that is Gever. Ashrei HaGever, the word Gever is Gimel Beis Reish, Gimel Goim Lechasadim Beis, Baishanim Reish Rahmanim. So a Yid has to have Busha. What does Busha mean? Pasha. We talked about at the simplest level what our parents used to say to us, or we used to hear it. Mitavsach Shem. Or the famous word, es pasach nicht, right? What does es pasach nicht mean? It's like, you can't even put it into English, like, it's unbecoming of you to do such a thing. So the pasuk says, the scare tactics of Matan Torah are, L'vavur nasois eschem bolikim, God wants to lift you up. Uvavur ti yirasra al penechem levilti techetohu. You should have some busha. That's what the scare tactics. Now, how does that equation work? Through the scare tactics, I get shame. That's what the Pachad Yitzchak was about. I don't know if we'll be able to finish it today, but we're going to finish it because it's a very important aside about the Jewish neshama, which depends on busha. Okay? The Jewish neshama, the Rebbeinu Shalom came to Har Sinai to give us busha. So when we say, going back to our original kasha in the Haggadah, Ilu kervanu lefnei Har Sinai, v'loi nasan lanu es ha'torah dayenu. Eizet dayenu. If you would have brought me to Har Sinai and not given me a Torah, okay. Dayenu, thank you so much for bringing me to Har Sinai. And boss, what did you do for me there? You didn't do anything. So all the Mepharshim are going to ask, what happened at Har Sinai, independent of Matan Torah, that I can say Dayen? And one of the answers they give is this pasuk. It says, Levavu, the reason why there's thunder, lightning, and smoke in Har Sinai is that you should have busha, you should have some shame. And a person that has shame, even if he doesn't have Torah, doesn't have Torah, but he has busha. Hashem tzach to do the wrong thing. It means he has a tzelem elikim. And that's where I put in a development. Because busha comes from a tzelem elikim. Animals do things that they should be ashamed of. If you ever watched a National Geographic, I couldn't watch them when I was a kid. You watch it's very nice when you watch the lions chasing that poor deer, and they catch the deer and they rip it apart. And right, the famous National Geographic, I couldn't watch that stuff because, like, to me a deer was like Bambi. That lion's killing Bambi. This is terrible. What kind of world did God create here? But that's the way Teva works. But the lion, in school we would call this bullying. You're bigger than him. What are you punching him and kicking him? Right? In the animal world, you say to the lion, you're bigger, you're stronger. What are you doing to the little baby deer? Why isn't that present? Because an animal has no busha. The Hashem didn't give them a sense of busha. If they had a sense of busha, the lion wouldn't kill the deer. Lions, you would say to the lion, why don't you pick on someone your own size? Right? And the lions would fight lions. And who's ever stronger would win. But a lion would start up with the deer without Hashem. It's a bullying. But the Hashem didn't create animals with a sense of busha, because otherwise the animal kingdom doesn't run. The animal kingdom runs on what? Ishes chaverei chayim b'loi. Everybody's got to step on each other, and everybody lives off the lower part of the food cycle. Man's not supposed to be like that. Man's supposed to have man's a tzelem elikim. Man has a busha, midas Hashem, and that's because he has the tzelem elikim. A man without a tzelem elikim is as the, now listen to the words in Pirkei Avos, have a mispalu b'shloim shel malchus. I don't know if you do that today. But have mispal b'shloim shel malchus. What malchus is he going to mispal for the success of the Obama administration? What are you going to mispal for? So I don't know what the Mishnah means. This man that said have mispal b'shloim shel malchus shel molei meira, which is what has happened. Because if there's no meira for malchus, ishes chaveroi chayim b'loi, then you'll see what Baltimore looks like. That's what the Mishnah is talking about. Shel molei meira, if there's no police authority, and there's no memshola authority, and there's no authority, people will swallow people. And the Mishnah uses the word ishes chaverei chayim below. And the Rav says this is like fish. Big fish swallow small fish. If there's not moira, then you come back to just an animal kingdom. And the big ones take over the small ones. Survival of the fittest. So this is what Matan Torah did to us. Torah is a separate feature. The first thing we got was busha, which was an injection of tzelem elikim. Adam Arishan's tzelem elikim became injected permanently into a Jewish neshama, and tzelem elikim defines itself as busha. Now, if you want to understand how critical this is